You can say you play soccer, you play baseball, but you don't play fighting. Some people, they can be good in the gym, but when they try to perform with the stress and everything, they just can't deliver. I'm the opposite. I believe I perform at my best when I'm under the pressure. There's 365 days in a year. The worst days of the years are the days that I fight, because I don't like to fight. It's very stressful. I'm not excited to go in a cage and maybe being humiliated. You know, I'm not excited about that. I'm scared, and I'm not afraid to say that I'm afraid.
You know, I watched some footage recently of you and Carlos Condit, and this famous head kick. You had said that that was a moment of realization for you, but I see you respond, and I see you in the moment fight back, and I'm just wondering, I mean, you can't teach that, or can you? Or is that something that's deep down inside the DNA of Georges St-Pierre that says, no, I'm getting up?
It's not always the best fighter that wins the fight. It's the fighter that fight the best.
Georges St-Pierre!
In fighting, it's a world of sharks. And it's normal. The organization is there to make money. When we say good things, we say good things, but we're very vocal.
Bisping was probably one of the most vocal ones.
Smother me, bore everybody to death, just like you do whenever you talk.
By trash talking, he was giving me more strength in a way.
I'm boring, but I was a pay-per-view king. Explain that to me, you know?
Yeah, fuck knows
people,
why.
They don't care.
Fuck knows why, pal.
Fake it until you make it. And that's the key. Go 100%. That's how it should be done in the fight game.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go? This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Georges St-Pierre, the Canadian mixed martial artist, actor, and UFC champion. You are recognized as one of the best pound-for-pound MMA fighters in history, and were named Fighter of the Year by Sports Illustrated magazine. After witnessing Royce Gracie compete in the first ever UFC event, you decided to dedicate your life to the sport of MMA. You went on to become the two-time welterweight champion of the world and have successfully defended your title on 9 separate occasions. In 2017, you made a historic comeback following a 4-year hiatus to defeat Michael Bisping at 185 pounds and become one of only 4 champions to win both welterweight and middleweight titles. For your contribution to the sport, you were recently inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. George, welcome to London Real.
Thank you for having me on the show.
George, it's great to have you here. I've been watching your career all throughout my own martial arts training career. You know, first off, I wanted to ask you, 9 months ago in this very studio, I was sitting across from, guess who? Michael Bisping, you know? And he was in the chair, and I had watched Michael, you know, with you at the press conferences, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have some guy, he's gonna come in here, he's gonna try to hijack my show, he's gonna be a douchebag to me. But when he sat down, I'll be honest, and Michael might be watching this, he was the nicest guy, he was super grateful, he was really introspective. You know, he fought through all those eye injuries and, you know, he never quit on his title dreams. I'm just curious, now that you've been through that with Michael, what's he really like?
Michael is a very nice guy. I mean, he's a very competitive person. So I know when I got into the fight with him, he was going to try to play some mental warfare against me. But I was expecting it, and you know, he likes to make the fight excited. But yeah, deep down inside, he's a very nice guy, of course.
And do you like it when the fighters, kind of trash talk with you? I know Nick Diaz and you had some words. There were a lot of fights where you didn't have words with guys, but Bisping was probably one of the most vocal ones. Do you like that? It feels like you'd rather not do that. That seems like your character, but I don't know.
Well, first, English is not my first language. I speak French. So if I get into a war of trash talking with someone whose English it's his first language, I will probably lose that battle. So I choose which battle I take very carefully. And I'm just not good at it. I mean, it's not part of who I am. And but I knew it was not a surprise for me when he was trying to get under my skin, and I was ready for that. It was expected.
Yeah, and coming to press conferences a little drunk is even. I mean, I just watched the footage now, and it kind of shocked me. I was like, man, he really brings it, doesn't he?
The thing in fighting, it's a different sport because you can't say you play soccer, you play baseball, but you don't play fighting. So you can die out there. I mean, or even the damage that you will have in a fight might cause your death, so to speak. So there's a lot on the line, and that's one of the reasons too that some guys, they like to play some mental warfare, because they know when some people, they can be good in the gym, but when they try to perform, when the light it's on with the stress and everything, they just can't deliver. I'm the opposite. I believe I perform at my best when I'm under the pressure. So by trash talking, he was giving me more strength in a way.
And while we're on this, how did that feel that night when you made this massive comeback after 4 years out of the game? You went up in weight class. You were dealing, we found out later, with ulcer colitis and all sorts of stomach issues that John Danaher said you never said anything to him about. You really kept that to yourself. What was that whole experience like? And then to get the submission victory over a trash-talking Michael, I mean, what did that feel like?
Well, it was my dream can come true, and I remember before the fight, I had three major criticism during my career. One was that I was not taking enough risk. I was too much of a cerebral fighter. Another one was that I never went up a weight class to fight the champion. And another criticism I had, it was not enough emotion, and also I didn't finish enough my opponent. So when I decided to come back, John gave me the idea that I should come back and fight the champion in a higher weight class. And the champion at the time was Michael Bisping. And Michael Bisping, we know that with him, he's going to bring the fight to you. He's going to make it excited. I changed also the way I train. I trained myself to become more opportunist, to be more, to go more for the finish instead of going more for the safe, the more logical method that I normally was choosing for. And all that happened in a good way. I was able to answer these three criticisms. So I was very happy. It was a dream come true for me.
And we're talking about John Danaher, who was one of Renzo Gracie's, is still one of his lead instructors, one of his first black belts, alongside Matt Serra, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, who you fought a couple times. But John had this concept, I remember him talking about, of a beautiful win, right? There was ways of turning a fight into a piece of art, right?
Yeah.
And
that's why you say mixed martial art. The idea is to win, of course, that's the priority. It's to win. But I would say if you can win with a beautiful technique, that makes it even sweeter. In a way that, for example, if someone never played basketball or doesn't know nothing about basketball, and I take him to the game to watch LeBron James or Michael Jordan, even though if he doesn't know anything about basketball, he will see that these guys have something special. It's beautiful to see them play. Same thing in hockey. Wayne Gretzky was one of the best. Conor McDavid, or in football, you had Pele, Diego Maradona, and all those guys. So the idea where the artistic come from is the beautiful win. Doing not only to win, but doing something beautiful that even someone who doesn't know the sport can watch it and say, wow, I like what he's doing. It's actually pretty cool,
And while we're on that, mixed martial artist, I mean, when I look at you, George, in the UFC, there are fighters and there are martial artists. And you were always a martial artist. And for people that might not even understand what that means, what does that mean to you? Because it's not just fighting, it's almost a way of life, inside, outside the cage. We watch you now on Instagram. You still, you still conduct your life like a martial artist, really.
Yeah, I train. I don't only train because I have a competition ahead of me. I train because that's the way I live. I like to feel good in my own skin. And if you feel good, you do good. So, yeah, a lot of guys, they train only because they have competition. These guys are fighters. I'm not a fighter. And on top of that, I never really liked to fight. I was just fortunate. I was very good at it. And I started at a very young age and had an incredible journey through my career. I met an amazing mentor. And I did it, not because I liked to fight, because of what the fighting gave me, the freedom, of course, the money, all the access of things that most of people doesn't have. And it was not about fighting. I was never excited about fighting. I was excited about winning and getting the result of what you're taking the risk for.
Now, most people, this won't make any sense, but also I think the Diaz brothers said the same thing. They both said they hate fighting, and yet all we do is see footage of you guys beating other people up. Like, how can you explain that to a normal person?
And I had a lot of problem about that, because I at one point in my career, I used to look at a lot of my training partner. They always told me, "Oh, George, you love to fight. Stop lying to us." And I was like, "No, I really don't." And it seems to me that I was more stressed than everybody else in the room, in the locker room before a fight. I was always asking myself, "What the hell am I doing here?" And I saw many sport psychologists, and most of them, they told me, "George, don't say you're afraid. You're excited." And I was like, man, excited? I don't know what it means. I mean, I'm excited if I see a beautiful naked woman. I'm excited if I have fast for 3 days and I'm about to eat my favorite dish. I'm excited if it's minus 20 degrees in Montreal and next week I'm going on vacation. I will be excited. I'm not excited to go in a cage and maybe being humiliated. I'm not excited about that. I'm scared, and I'm not afraid to say that I'm afraid. And that's the thing. In everybody's job, everybody works. Everybody has a job. Most people love their job. Some people does not love their job. It's impossible to love your job 100%. So the best way I can explain it, I'm a fighter. I fight in average in the later years of my career, maybe 1 or twice a year. There's 365 days in a year. The worst days of the years are the days that I fight, because I don't like to fight. It's very stressful. But if you put that in perspective of a percentage, it's less than 1% in a way. So my job I like my job because, what I don't like, it's only less than 1%. Most people, some of them don't like 5, 10, maybe 25% of their job. So it's not that bad, actually. Bigger the risk, bigger the reward.
Right. So you enjoy the training, the discipline, even though it's a challenge, and then that 1 or 2 times a year you have to go in and put it all on the line. And if that's the sacrifice for everything else you get, you're willing to do it.
That's the price to pay to have the life that I have, to have the freedom, to be able to, to hang out with my friend, eat and do whatever I want. I have no boss. I am my own boss. If I work hard and I make the right decision, I'll get good result. If I'm lazy and I don't want to, I'm cutting the corners, so to speak, I'm going to see it in my result. So that's what I love about that life of a martial artist.
John Danaher posted something recently, and it was a picture of you, and he said that when he was training you, you were always about the preparation. The preparation was everything. And he said on the night of the fight, it actually doesn't come down to, the meal before or how you feel or all these other things that maybe a lot of people would expect or fighters would think would make a difference. It's really down to the previous 6 months of all the hard work you put in. And even in your book, you talk about this day in, day out process of just preparing. Can you just speak on that? Because I think it's probably true about most things in life.
Yeah, it's there's a physical preparation and the mental preparation, and both are very important, I believe. If you only do the physical preparation, that's mean being in the gym, drilling your techniques, sparring, you'll be in shape, you'll know your stuff, but when you get under the lights, you might freeze in a way. And it's important to do visualization. So for me, I've done a lot of both. Of course, the way I can describe it the best, I would say it's like a movie. The more you see the movie, the more you're able to expect what is coming next. And when you fight, there's different outcome in the movie. It's like a movie but different outcome. But if you've seen and you made your homework, you'll be ready for it because you have seen it before. Sometimes fighters, they might be surprised because they have not seen or they don't expect certain outcomes. So that's how you can take advantage of a certain situation in a fight. Because everybody is in shape. When you get to the world level, when you fight for a title, what makes the difference is not because you're stronger or faster, or it's the little things like this, stuff that you do on a mundane basis that he doesn't do. It's not the night of the fight that you have an idea and boom, that clicks. So the fights are always win on mundane stuff that you do it every day. They're not win on drama or things like this.
So it's not some spectacular or low percentage move. It's just about these basics you do every day, mentally and physically. Absolutely. The promotion wants you to believe the opposite in a way, because they use the emotion to drive people to buy the event, to buy the fight, but the outcome is not decided by these things. They're decided by how you were training, how prepared you are. So if you have an exam, if you're a young kid and you're at school and you have an exam, and you have studied very well, so you're gonna go. Maybe if I ask you the night before the exam, if it's a very important exam, and I ask you, are you afraid? You'll be afraid. You're always afraid of failure, but you're confident. So you can be afraid and confident at the same time. However, if you have not studied, you'll be afraid and you won't be confident. So that's how fighting is. There's no difference. I watched some footage recently of you and Carlos Condit and this famous head kick. And, he caught you with this head kick. And I think you had said that was a moment of realization for you. But I see you respond, and I see you in the moment fight back and then get back up to your feet about 40 seconds later. And I'm just wondering, you can't teach that. You can't train that. Or can you? Or is that something that's deep down inside the DNA of Georges St-Pierre that says, no, I'm getting up?
I actually have a very good story about this fight. When I fight Carlos Condit, exactly, what happened is he went on one side, so my vision followed him, and the kick hit me on the side of my head. I never saw the kick coming. I woke up, I was sitting on my butt on the ground, and then I saw him coming at me, like charging at me to come to finish me. I survived that sequence of Carlos Condit because of my loss with Matt Serra. And let me explain that. when I fought Matt Serra, I remember he hit me with a looping punch that cut me right on the ear, and I got very dizzy. At that time, I got very emotional. I made the mistake of being emotional because I was supposed to win that fight according to the so-called expert, and I got, it was the first time I got rocked, so I got emotional with Matt Serra hit me, and I made the mistake to trying to give it back to him right away, to get into a stupid slugfest with him, and I was not accurate, and he was, so he was able to hit me many times, and I finally end up on the ground, and I lost by TKO. And when I reviewed that fight, I identified the mistake that I made. I should have, when I get rocked, I should have stepped back and, accept the fact that I got rocked and, just weather the storm and come back when I'm ready to come back in the fight. Because when the bell ring, the fight start, but the fight don't really start until you want it to start. So if the bell ring and I don't want to fight, I just have to run away. The guy cannot fight me if I don't want to fight. So when I got hit with the kick by Carlos Condit, I kind of woke up. I had a flash knockdown. I woke up on my butt, and I remember all these things. Sometimes when you fight, you have the impression that the time stopped, and it's really like you see the movie Rocky. Everything comes slow. That's how it happened for me a little bit in real life. So I have a lot of thought going into my head. And I remember my loss with Matt Serra, and I told myself, I said, I'm a very proud person. I wanted to stand up, but I told myself, I said, if I stand up right away in the middle of this, he might get me and knock me out. So I will accept the fact that I'm hurt. I'm going to go on my back and accept it and, weather the storm. So he came on top of me, tried to finish me. I weathered the storm, and that's how I was able to come back in the fight and win that fight. So sometimes when you lost, you can lose and learn a good lesson with a loss. So that loss made me a much better fighter.
Wow, that's a powerful lesson. And, what makes a person fight back in that scenario and not just give up? Do you think that's born? Do you think that's made? Is that something deep down in your DNA? Does that come from when you were beat up as a kid or your parents? Or what do you think that is? Because as a fighter, a fighter actually takes punishment. That's what a great fighter does. It's not like you give punishment. A great fighter can take it.
It's hard to say. I don't know if it's genetic or a mix of of the environment, of the social environment. It could be both. For example, I know that if you I've heard, I'm not a fan of this, of course, but I've heard that if you, in a dog fight, the dog that loses, you cannot fight again because he's mentally broken. So in a human being, I think if you face adversity in the past and you were able to overcome it after time, and that doesn't mean you never lost. Everybody loses in life. You lose and you overcome it by becoming better after that loss. So I have lost before, of course, many times, but I never lost for the same mistake twice. So if you lose if you lose and then you give up, it can break you mentally. That's how some people react to it. There's many ways of reacting to a failure. And I always look at a failure as a way to get better and learn from my mistake.
Yeah, no, well said. While we're on the subject of Matt Serra, John Danaher told me when I was in New York that was a tricky situation because, he's one of Renzo's black belts, and then Don was training you. And like you said, I think it was a 1 in 11 chance is what they gave Serra going into that bout. The odds makers. And obviously you went in there and, he surprised you with some shots. How did you deal with that loss? Because it was only your second loss, I think, in the UFC. And I'm having a flashback here, George, but I thought I remember that you might have seen a sports psychologist. You might have carried a brick around for a while and thrown it in the water when you got over the loss. Maybe I'm wrong here, but how did you process that? Because when you fought him again, it was almost a no contest. I mean, you were ready for that second fight with Matt.
Yeah, I was devastated after that loss. I believe the odds were 11-1, and don't forget that at the time I just beat Matt Hughes, who was the best fighter of his era. He was like the best guy. So I'm champion. I just beat the best guy, and I'm like the new kids on the block. I'm like, everybody is telling me how good and how great I am, and I start to believe it a little bit too much. And I'm fighting Matt Serra, a guy that the odds are, I think it was like 11-1, like we said. So, not that I underestimate him, but I was not as afraid as I am normally for that fight. Normally, I train in the fear that my opponent trains harder than me. I always visualize all the time my opponent. When I run, I visualize him running next to me, and I have to beat him. When I eat, I visualize him eating next to me. When I spar, I visualize him sparring next to me. Like everything I do, it's because of him. And when I was training for the fight against Matt Serra, I was not like that. I was not seeing that. I was not visualizing it that way. It's like I was not afraid. And I slept quite good the night before the fight, something that I never did before. Every fight that I had, I never slept well. Always. Not only the night before, but I would say the week leading up to the fight, I never slept well. Never in my life. And for Matt Serra, I kind of slept well. It was surprising. And I trained hard, everything, but it's like something was missing. I didn't feel like I was on the edge, so to speak. So I remember when Burt Watson at the UFC, I was in the locker room getting warmed up to get ready to the fight. Burt came and kicked the door and said, "St-Pierre, you're up next. Are you ready?" I told myself, man, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I'm like, and then I remember seeing my face because I watched the fight after. I look like I'm going to a cemetery, like when someone died. It was weird. I don't know what happened to me mentally, but I give credit to Matt Serra. He fought a very good fight. I tried my best, but he cut me, and he beat me fair and square. But sometimes it just happened in a weird way. So after the fight, I was devastated. I lost a lot of my confidence because now everybody was saying like, "Oh, George is not as good as we thought," and all the big expectation that I had for the future, now it all crumbled. So I decided to see a sports psychologist at the time, and it was a very good one. He helped me a lot because I had another fight because I wanted to come back and become world champion again, and I had to face other contender before I had another shot at the title. But every time I was supposed to fight someone, I was thinking of Matt Serra. Now it was in my mind like night and days all the time. So it was like a brick. A sports psychologist made me carry a brick around, and he made me write the name Matt Serra on the brick. And he was telling me that, "George, you're carrying a brick. After days and days and days of carrying a brick, at one point it's going to become heavy, and you need to release it and don't live in the past, live the present moment." And after many days, it was hard. I couldn't release it, but after many days, I started thinking about it, and I went to nearby the Saint Laurent River, took the brick, threw it in the water, and right away I felt a relief. I know it sounds weird, but it's something that really works for me as an athlete. I felt a relief, and I was able to focus on my upcoming fight. Then I won many other fights, had my revenge with Matt Serra, and win the fight. But if I would not have done that, maybe things would not have gone well for me.
Right, because that brick showed you how much it was holding you back. It was like you're carrying around this weight pointlessly and senselessly. You're carrying around this brick when you've got other things to worry about. And once you felt the weight over a few days, you're like, okay, now I see the senselessness of what I'm doing. And when you threw it out, then you could move forward.
I was just angry at myself. I couldn't live without thinking about it. I was angry because I knew I was better than what I showed, what I did. So I was very mad at myself, and I was thinking about it too much, night and days, and without focusing on the upcoming problem. I had a problem to solve right in front of me, and I was distracted by other things that was no longer important. I mean, so things could have gone very bad for me if I would not have released that brick that I was carrying. I also learned a great lesson after that fight. You know, when I fought Matt Hughes and I lost the first time, I was putting Matt Hughes on a pedestal. He was, for me, like untouchable. Then I lost, and I realized that I could hang out with him in the octagon. I could beat him, and then I beat him. Then Matt Serra, it's like I was not afraid enough of Matt Serra, and it's like I put Matt Hughes too high, and Matt Serra, I should have put him higher, but I put him too low. So when you fight someone in a way, he's never as good as you think he is, but he's never as bad as you think he is either. He's always different. And also I've learned that the night of the fight, it's like football. It's not always the best team that wins the game. It's the teams that plays the best. Sometimes there's teams that surprise, that beat a better team. They just play better the night of the game. Fighting is no different. Fighting, there's so many outcomes possible. There's so many things that can influence the result of a fight. It's not always the best fighter that wins the fight. It's the fighter that fight the best. And the night that I fought Matt Serra, that night, Matt Serra beat me because he fought a much better fight than I did. And that's how it goes in sport.
So knowing that's true, then how do you behave on the night of the fight? I mean, knowing that the training can help you, but you still have to be in the best mental space, the best corner people. You still want everything to be as good as possible.
I agree. Like I believe it's like a triangle. I mean, you have the physical, the technical, and the emotional. You know, if you have, you know, sometimes emotional is important too, in a way that a lot of young athletes, they come to me, they say, George, I don't understand. I'm burned out. I feel like I'm overtrained. I've not done a lot of volume of training. And I ask them, I'm like, listen, sometimes it's not the volume. It's it could be how things are going at home, or you have problem with, for example, your girlfriend or anything, you know, and because of it, you don't sleep well. All that, it's a whole package. All that has an effect on your recuperation. And it's not only about physical training, you know. It has to do with these things, you know, that are could be emotional, could be technical, could be physical. You know, you have an injury, so it's all a mix. It's all together, all interconnected.
You know, you talked about how in your brain you're always thinking about the fighter. You're always nervous, always thinking, what are they doing? How are they training? How are they eating? And I remember an interview you did, you know, near the end of your first retirement, where you said as soon as you got the belt wrapped around your waist again, immediately, sometimes even on the same minute, they brought the next guy in the cage, and your brain went from being completely focused and obsessed for 9 months with one guy, and now you got another guy. And when you're on the top, there's always someone coming from you. And I think you were mentally and physically exhausted, maybe even manifesting in, you know, stomach ulcers and stuff like that. I mean, what was it a point where you could have only gone on so much longer because you take it so seriously mentally?
I believe it's also my fault. I know I perform the best when I'm under the edge, so I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I'm a very proud person, and on top of that, I believe I've never been diagnosed for it, but I believe I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive in a way. Like in terms of competition of fighting, I think about it all the time. When I have a fight, even if it's a year, in 1 year, or if it's in 2 months, or in 1 day, in 24 hours, I will think about it constantly. I will think about it when I eat, when I sleep. I will breathe it. I will eat it. I will, you know, when I train, I drive my car. It become obsessive. However, if you want to have success in something, if you want to be the best at something, you need to be a little bit crazy, I believe. You need to be obsessed, because if you're not obsessed, if you don't put as much energy into it, you will not get there. You know. So, and after years and years of competition, I believe it get to me a little bit. I always said that I'm not really. I mean, it's a concern about head trauma, but I'm not someone who took a lot of punishment, you know, especially on a daily basis in training. I train very smart. I see a lot of athletes, they leave their career in the gym, you know, they make wars in the gym and they leave their career there. And very often you can burn yourself in training more than in a fight. Because you'll train every day. You're not going to fight every day. You'll fight maybe 2 to 3 to 4 times a year maximum. So I've seen a lot with guys, they burn themselves. And yeah, I always trained smart. So I was more concerned about the stress than the head trauma for me. The stress was something that really concerned me because I put a lot of pressure on myself. And you know, I didn't want to retire or, you know, being diagnosed with a very, very bad disease, you know. Now I was diagnosed in my last fight with colitis, but now it's all under control. I get rid of all my symptoms, and I'm very healthy right now.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm very glad to hear that. Tell me about your early days. I mean, when people find out that you were bullied as a kid, they find it hard to believe because everyone looks at you and, you know, you look like the perfect martial artist and you used to come out in the gi and, you know, you're like Jean-Claude Van Damme in real life, you know, but tell me about what really happened when you were a kid.
Yeah, I actually started martial art because I was bullied at school. Also on top of that, I was a big fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Steven Seagal, and all these guys, Chuck Norris, of course. But I had a big problem at school. Instead of focusing on what the teacher was explaining in front of the class, I was focusing on how I'm gonna get out of the class, take my books, and reach the bus before the bullies get me and hit me and beat me up. So I had a lot of trouble in my early days in school. So that's how I start karate at first, Kyokushin karate. Then I started as a self-defense. Self-defense became a passion because I started to collect metal and I became very good at it. Then after the passion became a business, and that's how I ended up in mixed martial art. But I also always believe that the fact that I've been bullied in school at the time made me stronger to face the mental warfare that I had to deal with in competition of mixed martial art, because I've seen it before. So it never really touched me. It never affected my performance in a negative way, so to speak.
Are bullies just scared? Is that really the reality? Or if kids are watching us now, I mean, what should they know about a bully?
Well, I think bullies, I mean, everybody is different. And I don't claim to be an expert in bullying, because now it's a total different ballgame with the social media and everything. But to me, I remember one day I made the mistake because I came back from school with scars and bruises and stuff like that. And one of the guy was beating me up in the bus. And one day when I came back from school, my dad grabbed me. He was angry. He said, "Now you're gonna tell me what happened, because I'm tired to see you come back with bruise and stuff, and your school results are not going very well sometimes because of that." And I was crying, and I said, "Yeah, there's a guy in the bus. He's older than me, and he beat me up. I can't do anything because he's stronger than me." And my dad did the unthinkable. He found out where the kids live, so he went to the kids and he knocked at the door and he told the dad of the kid, he said, yeah, can you tell your kid to stop beating up my kid because, you know, he need to focus on school. And when he came back, he told me that his dad looked like he smelled alcohol. I also found out that this kid didn't have a mother. His mother left, and he was raised by his dad, and his dad probably beat him up. So the way how he learned to communicate with me was from his dad. So he communicated with me the same way he learned from his dad. So I was just a collateral damage, you know. And I don't think he's a bad person. And as a matter of fact, I just think it's just a turns of event. You know, he was just a victim of bully by his dad. So I became a bully. He wanted to bully something to get out of his rage. And many years later, this is a true story, by the way. I was driving on Saint Laurent, and I saw the same guy. This guy, I don't want to say his name, of course, but he was begging for money in the corner of a street. And when I opened my window, he recognized me, and he saw me. I saw he was scared. So I said, hold on a second. I went to park my car, and now he knew who I was and what I become. He heard of me. So he got scared, and I told him, I said, I remember you, you know, back in the day, you know, you were tall, you were like the guy that everybody want to be like. And now look at you, man. You have no pride, you know, you can do whatever you want in your life. You know, go get a job, do something, you know. And I give him the rest of the money that I had in my pocket. I said, I don't want to see you no more. I don't want to see you ever begging like this. And so I left. And that same guy came to my parent house after I did that, a few months after, and he asked my mom and my dad if you could talk to me. And my mom and my dad said, George does not live here anymore, of course. And he says, hey, now I have a job. I want to say thanks to George for what he says. So it really touched me because it made me take a revenge, you know. I didn't have. Some people ask me, hey, did you ever have a revenge against one of the bully? I said that was for me the best revenge I can have, you know. And so I was very happy about that, you know. I didn't need to beat him up to feel good. This made me feel like I did something good.
Yeah, maybe break the cycle as well by doing that.
Yes.
Did you ever, when you have someone like Bisping, you know, get in your face, do you ever get that trigger, that flashback to the bully days, and you're going to have to be like, oh, I got to remember that PTSD or not?
Look, I was so used to, you know, when I'm getting into the fight in mixed martial art, I'm going one-on-one against one guy that I believe I'm going to beat, even though he's trying to get me in some trash talking war. I think real hard in my mind, even though I'm scared that I'm gonna beat him, I'm very confident. When I was at school and I was bullied, there were sometimes 3 to 4 guys older and bigger than me, and they were like, when they were bullying me, I knew I had no choice. I had no chance to beat these guys. So I never been afraid or never lost control against a bully in mixed martial art because I knew it has nothing to do with the outcome of the result. I knew I was going to beat him. So I was used to deal with so much more when I was young. It was much more stressful, you know. So I never pay any attention. I never spent any energy to worry about the trash talking. I was purely focusing on the fight. And that's one of the things that I believe bullied helped me in my later years of how to deal with mental warfare.
Right. When you look back on the UFC, when your career was there, from say UFC 50, you know, all the way up to 150, I mean, you were really the face of that brand as it got bigger. And the kids or people these days don't remember. I mean, back in the day, the UFC was not that big. It was not that cool. It was hard to get on TV. I remember when it was, a blood sport and it was banned, in America. I mean, can you talk about what it was like or what you remember from those days and how it's different from these days?
First, when I saw the first UFC, I was a teenager. My karate teacher just passed away, and I remember I saw Royce Gracie. At the time, the sport was not as big, and I saw Royce Gracie, who was relatively small to compare to the guy that he was fighting against, and a lot of his opponent, like Kimo and all those guys, they were very intimidated. They looked like bullies. And I saw Royce Gracie winning the first UFC, was beating all those big, intimidating guys. So when I saw that, it really inspired me, because I kind of, at the time, I never really took physically my revenge against the bully. So it really inspired me, because seeing Royce Gracie doing it. So I knew at the time, I was like, wow, this guy is amazing. And I really wanted to become like him. And at the time, when I saw the first UFC, I saw right away that the sport, I had faith that this sport would become big. Even when I started my career, I remember my first fight, I made like $1,100 in TKO. And then after I had another fight in TKO, then when I got into UFC, I made 3,000 plus 3,000, to fight in the UFC, my first fight. Then it got bigger and bigger. But I always had faith that at one point it would become big. And I feel very fortunate also that I came at the right time, in a way that a lot of the great fighter before me did not make a lot of money, and they deserved way more than what they make, because the sport was not as popular. I came right I came in the perfect time, and I'm very lucky to have made the money, because now I have enough money I can, live without fighting and do whatever not whatever I want, but I feel very privileged about that. But I always had faith that sport would become big, because fighting is something that it's in every one of us. Even if you're not a fan of fighting, if you're watching a football game and there's a fight that breaks out in the stands, you'll stop watching the football game to watch the fight. That's what John Denard told me, and it's really true.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.